All right, hello guys. Today we're doing a very short episode around a simple post-hike checklist that I highly encourage you to put into action. Basically, this is going to run through a range of actions which you can do immediately after your hike and in the hours following a hike to help aid your recovery, to make sure your body is repairing and adapting as well as you can, so that you can wake up the next day, either be ready for another day's worth of hiking, or alternatively just be ready and feeling better to take on life. Now, these are things that I highly encourage all my clients to do, and that I try my very best to do it myself, because it really does make a difference, both from anecdotal evidence, and there's a huge amount of science to back this stuff up. So enough about that, let's just get into it. So to start with, once you've finished your hike, a day's worth of hiking, what you do in the immediate hour after can make a significant difference to your rates of recovery. Basically, after you've done moving, your body is usually craving out for a few particular things, and it really is just dying for some particular nutrients and particular stuff in the body to help get that recovery process started. So don't have to get complicated here, but 2 points that are very important are: number one, rehydrate. So if you have been hiking all day and you've been drinking water, but 9 times out of 10, most of us probably don't drink enough water to keep on top of our hydration, at least while we're exercising. Getting back to that fully hydrated state after a day's worth of hiking as quick as you can is really important. So there's two real ways you can judge this, which I have talked about a bit on this podcast before. If you're just doing a day hike, a really simple way is to weigh yourself before the hike and weigh yourself after. And then whatever you have difference between how much you've lost, you want to drink 150% of that difference within the next hour. So for example, if you've lost 500 grams from point A to point B, you probably want to be drinking 750 milliliters of water within an hour. Alternatively, if you're not using a scale, if you're doing a multi-day hike, or you just can't be bothered with a scale measurement, just making sure your urine gets back to clear or straw colored as quickly as you can. That is a really important point to make. Number two, on top of that, within those 60 minutes, you want to really get some type of meal or some type of food which has a reasonable high portion of carbohydrates and a source of protein as well. Now, the idea behind this is once you've finished exercise, the body is craving out for replenishment of fuel stores. Usually we're pretty good at eating in the first quarter of our hike, maybe halfway, and maybe the first 3 quarters. But then by the last quarter, we're like, you know what, the end's in sight. There's no point stopping and having a snack. We're just going to push through. Ideally, we can continue to eat throughout, but in reality, most of us don't. So by the time that we finish hiking, the body just wants some help with its recovery. It's craving those nutrients. So have some food waiting for you of carbohydrates and protein. If you're doing a day hike, have sitting in the car a little cool pack with a nice sandwich or a wrap or some chocolate milk or something like that. If you're on a overnight hike, just make sure you've got a little snack sorted out before you set up your camp, which you can just literally get into it before you set up your camp, before you wait for dinner, because it is a really important point to make. And try to get that within 60 minutes of finishing your hike, if not sooner. Next one is, if possible, once you've actually finished your hike, so between, if you've been doing a day hike for the rest of the afternoon and the rest of the evening, or if you've just finished a big hike and you've only got a few hours, just try to keep some type of movement going. So a really common reality of people when we go on for a big hike, on a day hike specifically, we'll go out, we'll hike for 4, 5, 6, 10 hours, whatever we're doing, and then we'll come home and we'll sit on our bum on the couch because we've done our exercise, we're absolutely knackered. And fair enough, and you deserve it. You deserve to relax and everything. But sometimes when we just sit down and don't move, that doesn't allow the body to process all the waste products that are built up in our blood. It doesn't help the blood pump around and keep everything clear, and it just sort of compromises our recovery a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but it probably will make you a little bit sore the next day. It probably will slow things down a little bit. So simply just doing some type of movement in the afternoon or evening before you go to bed can be very important. So probably the last thing you want to do, but maybe doing a 30-minute walk around the neighborhood. If you've hiked until 2 o'clock, you sat on your bum for 2 hours, maybe just doing a quick walk. Go for a swim somewhere. Swimming's amazing for recovery, and you've heard me talk about that a lot. Do some yoga, or just do anything where you can just get a little bit of gentle movement. Now, if you're on an overnight hike, there's the same thing you can do during camp. So instead of just sitting around for the all afternoon, all evening, go stand in a river, do some walking, do a little yoga session. Just do something to keep the body moving a tiny bit. Even if it's only 5 to 10 minutes of this, it can make a significant difference, and I highly recommend you fit that in. Now, if you are another thing you can always do is a little bit of foam rolling. So spending 5, 10, 15 minutes rolling out sore muscles can help aid with this as well. It's a really, really positive thing to do, and I'm a firm believer of that. If you're actually on the trail doing the same thing with a trekking pole or a water bottle or a little massage ball and just working out sore muscles for 10, 15 minutes is amazing to help just keep the blood moving, just help relieve the muscles and just aid that recovery slightly. The other cool option is, again, which I've gone on about the podcast quite a few times, is get some compression tights and put them on. I absolutely love that, just purely for the sake of recovery. It can help keep the blood moving a little bit. This is something I often recommend to my clients who they just say, look, I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to foam roll. I don't want to stretch. I want to finish the day. I want to sit on the couch. I want to watch a movie. So I tell them, look, go out and buy a set of compression tights. So at least while you're sitting on the couch, the blood's moving around a little bit more. And it's not the best thing in the world, but it's a lot better than just sitting there with nothing on. And you can do the same thing if you've done an overnight hike. Wear it around camp or wear it while you're sleeping. And it really, really is amazing. And it's something I absolutely love. So if you haven't tried that before, finish this podcast, buy yourself a set of recovery compression tights, try it after your next hike, and you will really love the difference. And then the next thing you want to be looking at. So we talked about immediately 60 minutes after. We talked about the afternoon, evening after. Now we want to talk about your dinner. So again, your body's probably still craving out for nutrients here. So you really want to make sure your dinner has a combination of quite a few carbs, quite a big amount of protein, and a little bit of fat as well. Now carbs, again, your body just churn through a whole bunch of that while you've been walking, while you've been hiking. It needs to recover, it needs to replenish. Protein, because that's the important stuff for helping protein synthesis, meaning helping aid the recovery and repair of your muscles. And fat, just because the body needs fat for a whole bunch of different processes. It's not generally something that's very, very nice to eat while you're hiking or huge amounts, because it can sit in the gut a little bit. But when you finish for the day, it's probably a good idea to get that in. And in general, a nice balanced meal of carbs, protein, fat for dinner is always a good thing, but you definitely want to be making sure you hit all these bases on your night after for your dinner. And then the final thing I want to mention when it comes down to this, before you finished up and wrapped up these last few hours, just make sure you look after your sleep. So quite often we'll finish off our days hiking and we'll go down, we'll do all our whatever we do for the rest of the day, we'll come down to sleep and we'll just be achy, we'll be sore, we'll be wired, and we won't really get an amazing night's sleep. And sleep is probably one of the most crucial things that can help aid your recovery, so you want to be looking after it here. Now, if you are aware that your muscles are sore, roll out for 10 minutes before going to bed. Make sure you get on top of that before going to bed. If you started to struggle getting to sleep, have a sleep aid like chamomile tea or magnesium or melatonin or something like that, just to help you get to sleep. If you struggle, if you're on an overnight hike and you're like, you know what, I always sleep badly because there's all critters in the night and all of that, make sure you got earplugs, make sure you got a face mask, whatever you need to do to look after your sleep, because after you've done a big day's worth of hiking, whether it's a day hike or whether it's an overnight hike, just make sure you're looking after that sleep, because it's so crucial for your recovery. So just to work down that checklist again, within 60 minutes, rehydrate, get back to the fully hydrated state. Make sure you get a meal of carbohydrates and protein within 60 minutes. In the afternoon, try to do some type of movement, whether it's walking, yoga, swimming, foam rolling, something like that. If you feel like you're just going to be sitting on the couch all day, or if you need a little bit extra help, put some compression gear on, some compression tights. They will make a difference. For your dinner, make sure you get carbs, protein, and fat, and then make sure you're looking after your sleep. Tick all those things off after your hike, and it will make a significant difference to your recovery, to how you feel the next day, to your energy levels, and just generally how you are coping with it all. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So take that away, have a think, and put into action. It will make a difference. So I very much hope you've enjoyed this today, guys. And what I would love, a little favor, if you have listened to this and you've listened, know another hiker who does struggle or likes to sit on the couch right after a hike, maybe share this episode with them, help them get a little bit of love, help them get some insights into helping them. I really would appreciate it, because it goes a long way to helping grow this podcast. So thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.